This is Video Diary Podcast number 7. It's the day after my colonoscopy and the results were not good. So what happened in the last few days? What did the doctor find out? And what happens next? Come with me and find out. Welcome to my YouTooSpain diary. Hello, Scats here. It's Friday the 2nd of February 2024 as I speak, although I think I'm not going to have time to get this out until Saturday the 3rd after the show. It has been, if you'll pardon the pun, a shitty week. My colonoscopy was yesterday and I didn't quite know what to expect, but it's fair to say it definitely wasn't what happened. I'll get to the results and what the doctor said in a moment, but first, for those of you who wanted to know what the flushing out process is like, lovely, and how it feels to go through that, I'm going to show you some short videos I took over the course of that night. Don't worry, none of them contain poo. In case you missed the last video, I adjusted my diet to follow the low fibre instructions the hospital gave me, and I showed you my menu. I did make one or two changes, so here's what I ate to make sure there was nothing that might get in the way of the internal camera. As you can see, I went the extra mile after getting it wrong the first time and having to reschedule. I stayed on a simple version of keto with very few vegetables, which are the highest fibre things, until Sunday when I switched to the recommended list. I actually had a gig that day in a restaurant, so I only had a small bit of cheese at 1 before setting off to set up, and then after setting up I actually asked the restaurant to make me just chicken with rice before the gig, so I ate a bit early at 3 o'clock, which was very kind of them to make me some food. I was also having 2 cups of black coffee and plenty of water each day up to the Wednesday. So on the Tuesday I went into liquid only. Liz had very kindly slow cooked a broth made from chicken bones and some veg, so I sieved some of that into a bowl to make it clear, no lumps that would get in the way and be difficult to break down in my intestines, and I had that twice in that day because I'm sticking to my intermittent fasting routine, which is 2 meals a day still, by the way. The day before the colonoscopy, I went into a water-only fast. That was the Wednesday. Well, I had coffee in the morning as well, but that's allowed. Then it was the evening and the night of much whooshing after taking the laxatives at 8 o'clock in the evening, then 5 o'clock on the morning of the procedure. So here's what happened there. I recorded these bits on my phone, by the way, so the microphone will sound a little bit different. But here goes. I'm going to show you just very briefly around the room that I'm going to be spending a lot of time in between now and tomorrow morning. I've actually taken the liberty of buying something from Amazon to make this part of the journey a little bit more comfortable, and that is this toilet seat. So I've got everything prepared really. Towels, toilet. I've filled up the toilet roll holder. Whether I actually record myself during this process or not, well, that remains to be seen. Whether you want to see it or not is a different matter. I might record it anyway, just for posterity, whichever comes first. Here I am, back again. I have the laxatives, and here's the box. Put that one the right way round. That's what it is, yes. There are 3 packets. This one says dose number 1. So there we go. There's one of them, and there's the other one. They're all stuck together at the moment. So yes, I have to mix those 2 together. I don't know why they're not in the same packet already mixed. Maybe they explode. So those are the ones for 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. I don't know how long I'm going to be awake altogether in the night. How long is it going to last? I mean, I'll be taking it for probably in 4 lots, 15 minutes apart. So taking it for an hour, maybe another hour. Hopefully not much more than that, then I'm on the toilet. And this is the paperwork that you get with it. So here we are, the glasses are prepared. Those are the 4 glasses. These 1.5 litre bottles, I think they are, have been in the fridge. Should I wait until exactly 8 o'clock or just maybe start right now? Let's stir it in. Okay, so here goes. This is the first one. Tastes a bit medicine-y, but I'm going to immediately sit on the loo just in case. That was almost exactly 8 o'clock when I took it. Okay, I've had the second dose. Nothing yet, maybe a slight bit of cramping. Well, it's 8:45. I just had the 4th dose. That's the last one, 45 minutes worth. And I'm still sitting here on the toilet. Nothing's happened yet. Really, I should have waited to get on here, but I don't really want to get off just in case. It happens really quickly. So I decided to walk around for a bit, just in case that helps it kick off. Maybe just sitting down isn't helping, but I've washed up all of the glasses ready for the 5 o'clock in the morning dose. Well, it's begun. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I was given a hint by somebody who watches this channel to make sure I put some lubrication on the opening to make sure it wasn't too sore down there. I used coconut oil. I'm grateful for that advice. Thank you very much. It's only just after 10 o'clock. It seems to all be finished. It's been about 15 minutes since the last one, and I don't think there's going to be any more. Okay, I'm back. So after that lot, I went to bed. Still quite uncomfortable in the stomach, occasionally went to the loo and then managed to sleep for 3 or 4 hours until my alarm went off at 4:15 a.m. to get ready for the 5 a.m. second laxative. I didn't record any video then because, to be honest, I was a bit knackered, and that had got a lot worse by 8 o'clock in the morning. I was so tired, and it had almost but not quite finished by then. It seemed to last longer on the second batch, maybe because it was a longer period of time of taking the laxative. It was over kind of the course of an hour, the first batch, but the second batch at 5 in the morning was over the course of 2 hours. And of course I hadn't slept very much or eaten very much for 2.5 days. So Liz actually said I was a bit pale and withered looking, or withdrawn maybe. I can't remember the right words. But anyway, I'm not surprised. I was knackered. I had myself a shower and a shave, and Liz drove me almost immediately the 40 minutes to the hospital. And as I went through the door to the right department, they took me straight in and told me to hand my bag and my glasses and my phone, etc. to Liz. I'd already taken my wedding ring off and left that at home. No metals were allowed in where the procedure was going to be. I'd very wisely decided to dress up in very loose clothes, tracksuit bottoms, so I was the height of fashion. The colours didn't match at all. It was terrible, but I didn't really care. They sat me down and got me to sign the consent forms for the sedatives, which I was very happy to do. Then they took my blood pressure and fitted the cannula in my arm. I gave them my left arm. I was used to doing that. I know I've got a very good vein there when I do blood tests. And obviously that was to administer the sedative later through the cannula. Yes, I know some technical terminology. Cannula, yes. That's having a son who is training to be a nurse. That really helps. I had some problems with the language, mostly because of the speed that it was coming at me. I'm still not quite fast enough of ear. And of course I was very tired, but I mean, it was okay. One of the nurses, at least I think he was a nurse, he was dressed in blue, the doctor was in green. He could get by in English, so between us we muddled through. I did try my best to speak as much Spanish as possible. And then they said, follow this nurse, and I was straight in. It was actually in the next room, behind a curtain, onto the bed. She told me to disrobe down to my T-shirt and socks. She was the only one in the room. She put her back to me very kindly while I was undressing. And then she said, sit up on the bed, and she very quickly, gently covered me over with the paper sheet. And then more people came in, and I was encouraged into the proper position, leaned over on my left side, knees almost up to my chest, and I hutched up to the very side of the bed, so they didn't have to lean right over like that. And at some point before that, the doctor came in and asked me some questions about why are you here then? That was the first good question. Well, I was hoping you'd know. But no, it was all about how long had the diarrhea been going on, and how long had the bleeding been happening, and checking all of the details, Then very quickly after that, the sedative went in, and within a minute or so I was say gently floating, and I could see the screen that they had. So I did try to look at what was happening, and I was aware of what was going on around me, even when they gave me a bit more sedative. But I think I stopped looking at the screen then, because it was just, I was very woozy. I could feel the tube a bit going in and out. It's kind of discomfort with it, but I could hear voices. I mean, I couldn't see much because most of the action was behind me, of course. Then they finished. It didn't seem to take very long, and so I was encouraged to roll onto my back. And after the sedative wore off a bit more, the nurse who brought me in, she was alone in the room with me again and helped me to get dressed, stopping me crashing off the bed in case I was still a bit like this. That was quite funny. She was very nice. And I remember during the procedure there was farting. I knew that was going to happen. Quite a few of you had actually mentioned it in the comments on the lead up in the last video diary. I think the pressure from that was quite intense. It was like having really bad wind. So I made sure I was aware of it during the procedure, and I just let it all go, because there was pain, and it's quite strong actually, and it lasted for quite a while until I got back home. So I was then led into the waiting area next to the nurse's desk where they'd taken my blood pressure before, so they could keep an eye on me. And they'd asked me, was I with somebody? And I said, yes, my wife. So they brought Liz into the room, and we went into the doctor's room at the side for the verdict. And they took in the nurse, the guy who was in blue. He was there too, ready to translate. So that was handy. So now the bit you've all been waiting for, of course, the verdict. What did they say? I was expecting maybe some polyps, or, well, I'm not really sure what else I was expecting, but then they told me they'd found a serious lesion, and and through the haze of the sedative, I heard the word cancer. And it's the word you don't want to hear. It's the one word you don't want to hear. Well, apart from terminal, I can't even say the word. Apart from terminal, I suppose. But fortunately, they didn't say that one. But they did look very serious. And they said it didn't look good. The lesion was quite close to the bottom end of the bowel. It was actually between 10 and 20 centimetres in. So that made it 10 centimetres long. That is long. That's a big one. It's a bit of a beast. And it's covering over 60% of the circumference of the intestine, I think. Or was it 90%? It's quite a lot. I'll have to check up on that one. I'll report back on that on the next piece of the video diary. And I think it was 7 polyps they found between the 20 centimetre and the 90 centimetres, which is up the last bit of the bowel, really, the vertical part, and into the horizontal part. I can't remember what those bits are called, but I'll go into that in the next video. Some of the polyps had mushroomed quite a bit, which does tend to mean that they're precancerous or cancerous. So that's what Liz found out afterwards anyway. And when we had a close look at the report afterwards and got it translated, it did say they'd removed all of the polyps, and they'd taken 10 pieces of the lesion for biopsy. So that did make it sound even more serious. At this point, I have to make it clear, they're not saying it's cancer, but they did use the word. They can't say for definite until they've done the biopsies and the scans and they've had the results of the blood test. But they did say something that's grown so much is most likely to be cancerous tumour, and it did look like one, and that's from a doctor who's used to knowing what it looks like. So, well, look, I'm kind of assuming for now that it is, rather than being optimistic, overly optimistic, which I don't really sound at the moment, but that way I can be more prepared for what's coming when they give me the results. So that's the results of the procedure. What happens next? They told me to book a blood test at my local health centre. They took my phone number to check, and so that the scanning department could call me with an appointment, which would probably be early in the morning when they phoned me, most likely the following day. That's today as I'm speaking. And they booked me in to meet the doctor on February the 16th, which is 2 weeks from today. So I could get the results and get a prognosis and take it from there. They also said, make sure you've got your phone switched on early tomorrow, because the scanning appointments would be booked in quick. That's one good thing to know about the Spanish Health Service. They definitely move quick when it's serious, which made me, for which I'm very grateful on the one hand, but of course that makes me worried on the other hand, because now I know it's serious. I spent a lot of the afternoon and evening actually telling the people close to me what had happened, and told them not to worry too much, And then I was so tired later that day that I was in bed well before 9 and asleep by 10. And I only woke up once in the night, and it was almost 7 o'clock in the morning. So that's much longer than I've slept in one batch in a long time. And I made sure at that point that my phone had the airplane mode switched off, and I'd turned the little switch with the ringer on to make sure that would be heard in the morning. Or so I thought. But when I woke up at my 9 o'clock alarm, my phone said 5 missed calls, and I was really pissed off. I was so annoyed with myself. I checked the little on switch, and it was off. I've got one of those whooshy machines next to the bed, that is kind of white noise thing that stops me hearing a lot of noise in the night. And of course that was on, and I can always hear my alarm clock ringing through it, but not the noise of it vibrating, which I can normally hear, but not through the whooshy. So I immediately tried to ring the number back, but got no answer. It was just ringing and ringing. So I was panicking, because it's Friday and I didn't want to wait until Monday to hear when my appointments were. I didn't want to wait for 3 days. That would be horrible to do. And of course Liz wanted to know as well, so she could book people in for her work, because for some jobs she needs to go out in the car, and we only have one car between us. So yeah, she needs to know. I felt so bad, and I was also worried I wouldn't be able to understand the person at the end of the phone and get through to the right department. And I was still really, really tired in the head when I woke up. Anyway, I eventually decided to enlist the help of Chris from Upsticks, because, well, we've become quite close, having done so many shows together, and we've socialised a lot as well. So he was one of the people I told very quickly the night before, and had a really good chat with him as well. So he sorted it out for me. Thanks so much, Chris. So I now have an appointment next week, and he also said the hospital might call if they had an earlier cancellation. So I got another call really, really quickly afterwards, only minutes later, from the hospital, booking me in, which I thought was rebooking the one that Chris had told me had booked in, but actually they'd said a different department. So I thought, let's better check with Chris. So I checked, and he said, no, these are two separate teams. They said that the other team would phone up. So they've booked basically separate. One is the CT scan and the other is the MRI. Two different departments. One's the X-ray team and the other is the other one. Can't remember the name. Okay then. So 2 trips down to the coast next week to the hospital, and there's an early morning blood test one day in Compito where I live, because I went into the health centre on the way home from the procedure at the hospital and booked that in. And I also went in to use their toilet to get rid of the wind that had built up on the way up the mountain on that crazy road. Right, next question then. How does it all feel to have the C word floating over you like the angel of death? And the answer is I'm not quite sure yet. I do occasionally have bouts of emotion, but no, I'm not sure yet generally. It's coming out more me making this video than it has up until now. Stop it, scats. I need to get through the video. Liz is much more instant with her feelings than I am, so I can see she was really deeply affected. And that upset me more than hearing the word myself. I've got written here on my little script notes here, maybe I'm in denial still, or maybe I'm not now. Maybe it's my natural reaction to being ill. My mum always said that when I was sick as a child, I'd just sit there and take it stoically instead of screaming and crying like my older brother did. And it does occur to me that approach could be the wrong one for this kind of situation. It could be why it took so long for me to get an appointment for the colonoscopy in the first place, and why the lesion had grown so much. Is that my fault? Because I played down the pain and the seriousness to the doctor, so she's obviously put it in my notes that I wasn't as bad as it actually was. I've been saying, maybe there wasn't blood in my stools every time I went to the toilet, but maybe there wasn't. I just wasn't looking properly. Maybe I was just putting it down to having eaten loads of red stuff like chorizo or tomatoes or something. I know I'd said that to Liz, and I think, I don't know whether it's just I've had a lot of chorizo yesterday, so is that what it is? Especially in the early days when I didn't have the sort of pains when I was asleep. And I should also have gone in for more blood tests late last year. The doctor had said, come back in a month. And that was in August. She'd said, yeah, you've got to come back in a month and we'll take regular ones. And I just kept forgetting. And I was busy. Or, the other thing on my mind was, I'd started, but at least by the end of October, I'd started eating the wrong foods, sugary stuff, and leading up to Christmas and having the occasional beer, and I didn't want my diabetes symptoms to show up on the blood tests and end up having to take tablets for that. It's ridiculous looking back, because this is far more serious, and I just feel really guilty and stupid about that now. And also Liz is feeling guilty too, even though she shouldn't really be doing that, because she's thinking, well, I had the feeling that it was worse than I was making out, because she knows me. But of course she didn't want to worry me or to nag me. So, well, we've both promised to correct those character traits and be more brutally honest when it comes to things like this, to our health. Okay, so how else do I feel? Am I thinking about death? It's a bit early to do that, really. I'm not doing that very much, if at all. I've decided to wait until I know more before going through that door and experiencing those emotions. The good things to hang on to are that colon cancer has a good survival rate, even when it's serious. There are several different kinds too. Some of them grow quicker than others. The question, first of all, is whether it's spread through the walls of the intestine or the colon. I don't know if I'm getting the terminology right there. And if it has, whether it's metastasized, there's a good word, that means it's moved to other parts of my body, different systems. I think the lymphatic system is the first place it would move to. That's the first port of call, or the liver, perhaps. I mean, if that's the case, then it could be spreading further. Then I'm in much deeper doo-doo. So, fingers crossed, everyone. If any of you, by the way, want to share your own stories and experiences of colon cancer, and please leave some of those in the comments. I'm open to stories, good or bad. Excuse me, I'm burping. It's more of the wind coming up. Let's open up and share, everybody. People need to know. Do try and leave them in the comments below. But if you really want to share them more privately, you can email me directly. The address is in the video description below. It's YouTooSmile@gmail.com. One good thing to tell you, let's leave on a positive note. I'm down to 165 pounds. That's partly down to the fasting before the laxatives, so I am getting thinner. Although it does occur to me that I might not want to lose too much weight right now, in case I end up on chemotherapy. That's the word. That, of course, is looking quite likely if it is tumour. So anyway, next week on the podcast, I'll talk about that a bit more. I'll talk about what the possibilities might be for me. I'll tell you what happened with the scanning process, so you know what to expect if you have to go through that yourself. I'll give you another weight loss update. I might even do some exercise to prepare my body for the onslaught, do a bit more walking and stuff like that. So until next week, be good to each other. Don't worry too much. Peace and love. See you in the next one. If I'm still alive, you can expect my sense of humour to get darker the worse my condition is. I look forward to that. Hold on to your hats and hold on to your hair. I mean, that's a point. What's going to happen if I lose all my hair? Well, will I have to buy a wig? Will I just buy one anyway, even though I haven't got any hair? And what kind should I get? What wig would I look lovely in? Oh dear. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Ahead! The jokes are going to get worse. Yeah, go on then. Go away. Bye for now. Let's do the cancer dance.